All right, good morning, everyone. You should know the drill by now. If you can hear me, press 1. I'm using John's icebreaker. If you can hear me, press 1. All right, good morning, and welcome to our Millionaire Mindset series. Today, we're going to touch on how to sell your listings in less than 6 months. So this is very crucial to a lot of people, especially if your income or your commission is relying on your sale. And you can imagine if all your listings take 8 months to sell, 12 months to sell, then you have to wait 12 months to get your income. So what's happening in the market now? So there are 3 things why are listings taking so long to sell. 1 is because of the market. 2 is because of the behavior of the sellers, and also the behavior. 3 is behavior of the buyers. So these are 3 components that is combining and creating the kind of challenges that we are facing in the market today, and that is the reason why a lot of listings are sitting in the market and not selling. And of course, the crucial point then is the pricing. Right, the crucial point then is the pricing. So we're going to look into 3 of these components and into the pricing as well. All right, and from here, then we will know what are the kind of conversations that we can have with the buyers and the sellers, and especially the sellers when we go and get the listings, when we go and do the listings presentation. What kind of conversation should we have? What should we say? What should our scripts be? So these are the things that we will touch on as we move on. All right, so let's move on, and I will share screen, and we will start from there. All right, so welcome to our Millionaire Mindset series. Today, we're going to touch on how to sell your listings in less than 6 months. All right, so before we start, I'd like to share with you a quote from Gary Keller. He says, "Success is not for the chosen few, but for the few that chooses." Right? So it is your choice whether you want to be successful or not. All right, moving on. So what kind of market are we in? So we are now in a shift market. In a shift market, that's what Gary Keller calls this kind of market, a shift market. Maybe if you want to explain it in another term, it can be a down market, or it can be a slow market, right? Those are similar kind of terms that some locals would like to use. So Gary Keller called this a shift market. So the market has shifted. And what are the characteristics of a shift market? 1, listings sits in the market for more than 6 months. I'm sure you will see if you go back to all your listings and you've been sitting on those listings for more than 6 months. All right. So listing sits in the market for more than 6 months to sell. To me, we've been in a shift market since 2018. Since 2018, properties have been sitting in the market and take longer than 6 months to sell. Some 8 months, some 12 months. So it's already an indication of a shift market. 2, sellers more than buyers. There are more sellers in the market than buyers. So that's why we call it a buyer's market. So that's the characteristics of a shift market. And the third one is property price trend is on a downward trend. So property price is on a downward trend actually since 2018. In certain locations, even much earlier, where the prices have started to drop. The problem is those prices drop very slowly, and it didn't drop a lot over every quarter. And so people don't realize that prices has been dropping, especially sellers, and agents don't realize that they have already moved into a shift market. So in a shift market, your conversation with your buyer and the seller is different from a good market, right? That's why you need to know what market you are in now, so that you will know what kind of conversations you need to have with your buyers and your sellers. So let's look at the buyer behavior in the shift market. In a buyer behavior in the shift market, buyers knows that there are more units for sale in the market. I'm sure your buyers that you come across will want to see more units. So even if they like your unit, they may say, let me think about it. Or they may ask you, do you have some more to see? All right. So if they say they think about it, most likely they want to see a few more. All right. They may not tell you that. Or some may just ask you, do you have some more for me to see? So that's why, because they're expecting that more units are for sale. So buyer is expecting for the price to drop. And so this is the kind of mindset the buyers has when they come into the market. And what they are expecting, they're expecting a price to drop. So if they see that your price has not dropped, they will not be interested. They will go for those properties that has dropped in their prices. That's the kind of mindset all buyers are having now. They want to buy a discount. They want to buy a good buy. They want to buy a cheap sale. They can even tell you, I'm looking for fire sale. Look for me, right? So that's the kind of mindset all buyers are at the moment. So in other words, then you need to ask, are buyers willing to pay higher? That's a question you need to ask. So buyer may want to wait out or delay the purchase. So if they think that if the buyers think that the price will still continue to drop, then they will wait. And that's why, that's the reason why most of the listings in the market takes more than 6 months to sell, because buyers are taking time to make a decision. They want to delay their decision. They may want to even delay their plan to move in a house, to buy a house, so that in anticipation of the price dropping later on or further down the road. All right, so buyers are waiting for the price to drop and they want to wait out or they want to delay the purchase. So buyer is expecting to get a great bargain, right? That's what I told you just now. They are expecting to get a great bargain. Buyer may think that seller will accept any offers. So I'm sure you have ridiculous offers sometimes, and so much so that you dare not bring the offer back to the seller. But that's the kind of mindset that buyers has. They think that since the market is bad and the market is slow and prices are dropping, I'm sure the seller will accept any kind of price. And so it will be good to ask the buyer, why do you offer such kind of price? Is there a basis for it? Is there a reason for it? That will be a good conversation starter. All right. So what about the sellers? What are the sellers' behavior? Seller may not be facing the reality of the market and the price trend. That's your biggest challenge when you go and see your sellers in your listings presentation, in your conversation with the seller when you go and get the listings. They may not realize what the market is at the moment. So that means to say they are sometimes 12 months or even some 2 years behind the market. Why do I say that? It's the way they deal with the agent. Then you will know that they are really out of touch with the market and they are really like 1 year behind or 2 years behind the market. Sometimes you can read it from the way the conversation they have with the agent. So seller may be disappointed and angry that the property prices has dropped, that their value of the property has dropped, and they may be also angry with themselves because they missed the window of opportunity to sell at a higher price. Because this is not the kind of market where you want to sell and maximize your profit. All right. So that window of opportunity has gone, and therefore they could be disappointed with themselves or could be angry with themselves. And very funny that sometimes that's how they take it out on the agents. So I'm sure you have faced the brunt of it sometimes, and this is the reason behind. Seller may still want to maximize profit from the sale. All right. Again, like I said, they have missed out that opportunity to maximize their profit in selling the property. That window of opportunity has gone. They have missed a chance to do it. They would say they could have sold it earlier, but they did not. They delayed, they hold on, and then they missed that. And now they are in a shift market. So they have missed that opportunity. So seller may be slow in dropping the price to attract buyers, in hoping that price don't drop so much lah. Hoping that the buyers will come in and pick up the price that they have dropped. All right, and slow in dropping the price because they are hoping that the price will not drop and hoping that there will be buyers for that kind of price. And so they will tell the agent, go and try at this price. After 6 months, then they realize that they can't find buyers at this price, and then they decided to drop. Sometimes by then it could be too late. The price in the market has dropped even further. And so that's the kind of challenge that we are all facing when we're dealing with sellers because they are slow in dropping the price. So therefore, pricing is very important. And let's have a look at the perspective of pricing strategies. So when the market shifts towards a buyer's market, the listings sits. All right. Why? Because buyers taking time to buy, they are hoping for the price to drop further, and many other reasons. So don't let that happen to your sellers. So in a buyer's market, real estate becomes a commodity. So this is what you need to know. As far as a buyer is concerned, in a shift market, all terrace houses are the same. All SMBDs are the same. All bungalows are the same. So sellers may tell you, hey, mine is better because mine has better renovations, better design. But to the buyer, it's all the same. Because in the shift market, that's the buyer's mentality, the kind of mindset they have that everything is the same. They look at it like a commodity. Just like when you look at eggs, they're all the same. All right, so they are like a commodity. And only properties in good condition and priced right will sell in a buyer's market. That's why your listings has to be in good condition if you want to compete and get the buyer's attention. It has to be in good condition and in a right price. So you got to price it correctly. If you price it out of the market, they will not be interested. You will not be able to attract buyers. So price can correct a bad condition, but condition won't correct bad price. Meaning that if you have a house that are in a condition that is a bit poor, poorer than your competitor, you can correct that by lowering down your price. All right. But if you have a property, a listings with a very high price, and you are trying to justify it by improving the condition of the property, so that condition would not correct that bad price. That condition will not correct that high price. All right. So that's the situation you are facing in this kind of market. So correct pricing represents 80% of your marketing effort. So that means to say you have to put 80% of your effort in dealing with the pricing, in talking to in your conversation with the seller. 80% of your effort is in the pricing. So you got to do a lot of homework to do a CMA, to find out the conditions and what economic conditions in the local market, and do a good presentation to the seller. All right. So if you do that well, then 80% of your efforts are done. Your role as a buyer in the market. So when houses sold in a matter of days, agents are undervalued. But now customers need you for your what? So in the good days, when the market is good, property gets sold very fast. Within 30 days, within 90 days, it's sold once you put it in the market. All right. And those time, good market, buyers don't mind paying a bit more. And so that's why in a good market, you find the price trends keep going up. All right. And so that's why agents are undervalued. It is because properties are sold very quickly. And most of the time, agents don't need a very high skill to be able to sell a property because property is good, market is good, buyers and properties get sold very fast. There are more buyers than sellers in the market. But now, customers will need you for your what? For your pricing strategies. They will need you to advise them on the pricing. And because you are the one in the market, you are the one that in the frontier of the market, dealing with buyers and sellers, dealing with other kinds of listings in the location, and therefore you are the best person to advise them on the pricing. All right. So therefore, you got to change your mode of operation. You got to change your mode of operation. You got to have good market knowledge. You have to have good pricing strategies. You have buyers in hand. Then your service will be much valued, and you are the fiduciary. You have the fiduciary commitment to the seller. That means you have personal commitment to the seller to help him sell the house. And you have you attend to him like a consultant. That's what is needed from you in a shift market. All right, you have to be the fiduciary party to him. And of course, your negotiation skills. You got to be able to negotiate the pricing, negotiate and persuade the buyers to sell, and also advise the seller to price it at the right price. So these are what is expected of you in a shift market. Your pricing strategies, market knowledge, buyers in hand, fiduciary commitment, and negotiation skills. When I say buyers in hand, doesn't mean that you already have buyers in hand, but you know where to find the buyers. You are able to get the buyers to buy. That's what the sellers would value you for. All right. So shift happens, not shit happens. Shift happens. Maximize your effectiveness as a consultant to your seller. So now you have to change your role. You have to shift your role from a selling agent, from a salesman to a consultant. All right. When you want to advise them on pricing strategies and you need to have the local market knowledge, then that's when you need to be a consultant. You need to come in as a consultant. So you got to study the market, know the local economy, knows the demand supply situations, the price trends, and be able to advise the seller accordingly. All right. And you got to pre-qualify your sellers, update your listings presentation. All right. So of course, you need to know the motivation behind the selling, the reasons why they want to sell, when they need to sell. All right. And how much they want to sell. So sometimes in your conversation with them, you can ask, so how much you want to sell? So it's a good way to qualify whether they are having the right motivation to come into the market or not. All right. So they may give you a price, and you may find out that the price is a bit higher than the market is willing to accept. Then you have to advise them. And if they say, if you tell them, your price seems to be higher than your competitors, would you be willing to go with your competitor's price? If they say no, then you can ask them, how then do you want to sell? They may say, okay, let's try for a few months. How long do you want to wait? Or how long do you want to try? What if you cannot sell at the price that you wanted? What would happen after that? If they say, then I have no hurry to sell, I don't intend to sell anything lower, then they have the wrong motivation in the shift market. That means to say they don't need to sell. They don't need to sell now. If they don't need to sell now, then why put the property into the market? Why take the listings? If they don't need to sell now, then they can sell it much later. They can wait for another 5 years when the market has improved and then the price has gone back up to the price that they want. So you want to deal with sellers who has the right motivation, who needs to sell and is willing to work with you on the pricing. That's very important. That's why you need to qualify them before you get the listings. You want to work with sellers who are willing to sell at the right price, and the motivation behind is to sell now. Okay, and that they need to sell. Right? If you don't need to sell, Mr. Seller, this is what I always tell them. This is not a good time to put your property into the market. You will be wasting time. All right. So the best thing is, if you don't need to sell now, and if you can wait, then you can wait for another 5 years to allow the property to become stronger and the price to go back up to the price that you want. So get the right price. Always get the right price. And so some were asking me, can I take these listings? Well, ask these few questions. What's the motivation of the seller? Do they need to sell now? If they can't sell now, what will happen? If they can't sell now, 3 months down the road, what will happen? All right. And if they want to sell now, can they sell at the right price? At least with the same, to start with, to start at the same price with your competitors. But if sometimes your competitors' price may also be above the right price or the market rate or the price that the market is willing to pay for, then there's no point putting that property into the market. You'll be wasting your time. All right? Get the right price. So get a big picture. Buyers will prioritize the deal rather than the area. So again, this is the kind of mindset the buyers has. Besides expecting prices to drop, now and then looking at property as a commodity, now they are also, this is the mindset they have, that they will only prioritize the deal rather than the area. So if they are looking at Taman Chun, sometimes they may look up and look around and say, hey, I have more options now. Why don't I look at Bandar Utama? Why don't I look at the surrounding housing estates? All I want is a good deal. Location doesn't matter anymore at the moment. All right. So that's the kind of mindset that buyers has. So your sellers are competing with homes in the price range all over town. All right. So if he's looking at semi-D, he may not necessarily looking at one neighborhood, but he could be looking at a few other neighborhoods because he knows he has more options, he has more choices, and therefore he's looking at all the semi-Ds as a commodity. So how do you then approach a seller in a shift market? Find the motivated. Find the motivated. Work only on the motivated. If he say, I'm not in a hurry to sell lah, so just try this price for me lah, those kind of, then he's not really motivated for this market. All right. So you can only afford to work with the very motivated. Pre-qualify your sellers before you make the listings appointment. So you can send them a questionnaire, ask them those questions. How much you want to sell? Why do you need to sell? When do you need to sell? If your property is not sold within 6 months, what will happen? All right. So these are ways to pre-qualify sellers even before you go and see them for the listings. So I know some of you have just joined the industry, and every listings is important to you, and because you don't have listings, and so you may find that every listings is important to you, and you may want to go for every appointment, every listings appointment. Yes, by all means, go and see them, understand go there and see it for yourself, a seller's mindset, all right? And do it for yourself, how to qualify a seller, and see it for yourself whether the seller is motivated for this market or not. All right. So update your listings presentation, right? Tell the truth. When you go and see the seller, when you are doing the listings presentation, this is important. Tell the truth. All right. You are not doing your sellers any favors if you are tempted to soften the blow in order to get the listings. Most of the time when we go and see the sellers will say, this is the price I want to sell. Sell at this price. But unfortunately, like I said, most of the sellers are out of touch with the market. And the way they have, the kind of conversation that they have with the agent is the kind of conversation they will have with an agent in a good market. So in a good market, they'll say, my neighbor sold at 1 million, I want to sell at 1.05. Sell it at this price. In a good market, when the market is strong, you may be able to find a buyer who's willing to pay slightly more. But now we are in a shift market. That kind of conversations doesn't hold anymore. All right. And so it is no more the sellers that dictate the price. It is not even the agent that dictates the price. Who dictates the price? The market. The market dictates the price. If I want to go even harder, it's the buyer that dictates the price. So if the buyer's perception is that your price is not good enough, they will not be interested. So that's the kind of situation that the sellers needs to know. And that's the kind of education you need to have with the seller. And so you need to explain to them the market situation, educate them on the kind of pricing that they need to have. Care enough about them to be strong upfront and get the right price. So a lot of agents don't know how to have this kind of conversation with the seller. And so when the seller asks them to sell at such a price, at a higher price, higher than the market price, they said, okay, I will try, I will put some advertisement and see how it goes. And so then you are taking the listings and you're wasting time marketing it, putting advertisements for the next 3 to 6 months. So what you need to do is do a CMA. You show them the CMA and then tell them and then show them what kind of pricing the market is going for. All right. So you have to be strong enough to be able to tell them upfront that the price that they want cannot be sold. The price that they want, they will make the listing sit in the market. And they will sit in the market for another 6 months, 12 months. So if you have cases like that, you can always use those cases to explain to them that these properties at this price seated in the market for so long, and then after they have dropped the price and they got it sold, right? So you got to be able to tell them upfront on this kind of in this kind of situations where sellers are expecting a high price. So leverage on the media, so your kind of conversation with them will help if you use the media as your leverage. Click out those articles and show them to support your position about the market situation, about the property market situation. All right. So there are lots of it, but sometimes, sometimes the media is talking on a very general market, and so you have to be careful with that, because you have to look at the property in the local economy. So you got to be the local economies of choice. You got to be the local economies that will be able to give the sellers all the figures, the transacted prices, the number of listings in the market, the kind of competitors asking prices, and how long does a listing sit in the market before it is sold. If you have those kind of information, that will be fantastic. All right. And so those are the kind of local economy that you can talk to them about. So back up the news stories with your own hard data. So like I said just now, if you have transacted, all your colleagues would have some kind of transactions of a similar type. It can be a different location. You can tell them, if you want this price, and this is what will happen. It will sit in the market for longer. And what are the prices that are selling? These are the prices that are selling. You got to be able to show them those figures. All right. And then listen for responsiveness. After your presentation, after your CMA, you talk about pricing, you talk about the condition of the market, then you wait for responses. So always, they will give you a lot of reasons why they need to sell at this price, why they want to sell at this price. Sometimes the sentiment takes over, all right? And they are not so objective anymore. So always return to their motivation. Why do you need to sell? Return to their motivation if you sense that they are not receptive, and determine whether or not you want to take the listings. All right. So Mr. Seller, you said you need to sell because, and so now if you need to sell, you look at the pricing. You got to follow and with the right pricing. Otherwise, your property will sit for another 6 months or even 12 months. Are you ready for that? Get back to the motivation. Get back to the motivation. Right, some sellers may not be able to face reality and won't be able to list their home at the price needed to sell. Again, that's the kind of challenge that we are all facing. Sellers are not willing. It's not that they are not aware totally. Sometimes they are not willing to face the reality. So instead of dropping the price so much immediately, they'll tell you, why don't you try something higher? Put it in the market and see how it goes. So they don't want to face the reality. They want and they want to ease the pain, basically. But if you are trying to do that, then you're wasting time, you're losing time, you're missing the opportunities to sell fast, right? If you miss the opportunity to sell fast, you wait another 6 months down the road, price could have dropped even further. The prices could drop even further, right? So the sellers need to know that. You need to tell them that, right? So be prepared to answer objections. So in your presentation, address all your objections before they come up. So if you're new, find a colleague, sit down, brainstorm what kind of objections would the seller give you when you talk about pricing, talk about right pricing, and talking about selling now and selling fast. What are kind of objections that they will come up with? So use a thorough CMA in your presentation to handle those kind of objections. Facts and figures speaks for itself. That will overcome all emotions and sentiments that they may have. If they're angry because they missed the opportunity, if they're angry because you say their prices should be lower, well, the CMA facts speaks for itself, right? That will be a good tool to use. During the listings presentation, bring up objections yourself and then sweep them away. So that's why you need to sit down, brainstorm, write down a list of anticipated objections that sellers will bring up, include them into your presentation, and so that you will handle those objections even before the seller brings it up, right? Brings up the objection, and then you sweep it away, you explain it away one by one. All right? So get the right price. How to get the right price? The original price is very critical. So do your CMA, do your thorough CMA. Like I said just now, a thorough CMA in your presentation. Well, Kashfi was sharing with me. He even did valuation on a semi-D, where on a bungalow, where he did a separate valuation on the price of the land and the price of the building, right? Price of a building, if it is constructed today at current price, at that kind of condition, what would that kind of building cost? And the value of the property, what's the value of the property of a semi or bungalow at that location? So that is even a more thorough CMA, right? So if you can do that, or you can find other ways of doing a more thorough CMA, that will even be better, because facts and figures speaks louder than any objections or any emotions that are involved. All right. So original price is critical. So the original price means that the first price, the listings price that you put into the market, the listed price that you put into the market, that one is very critical. Why? Because it's that window of opportunity, that 30 days that you have, or that is the window of opportunity. That's the time where you want to get the buyer's attention, right? If you price it out of the market, they will bypass it very quickly. So if a buyer believes a house is poorly priced, they will write it off from the start. So if you follow the instruction of the seller and to tell you that try at a higher price lah, let's see how the market goes, then you are falling into the trap of missing out that window of opportunity. Because when the buyer sees your house is poorly priced, then they will write it off from day one itself. They will not be interested. They will not contact you. They will not want to see the property. Then later on, if they are still in the market and they realize a few months later that you drop the price, then they will be thinking, drop the price. Maybe I should wait a bit longer for it to drop further. So then you are encouraging that kind of behavior if you don't price it right at the beginning itself. So even the price is subsequently reduced several times or home improvements are made, the best chance for selling is lost forever. The best window of opportunity is the first 30 days. First 30 days of your advertisements of your listings. All right. So if you miss that, then you miss that opportunity, and subsequently you take longer to sell that property. Right. So for homes that have price reduction, the time to sell increases 2 or 3 times. That means for homes that are listed, not at the right price, first price, they try it out for a few months, the seller finally accept the fact that they can't sell, then they reduce the price. That would be 3 months, 6 months down the road. Then they found out that they still can't sell after reducing the price. Why? It could be that the market rate has already dropped even further. Then they reduce the price further. So it takes, instead of selling the house in 30 days, it takes them 6 months or 9 months to finally sell. Why? Because they do that price reduction slowly. So you can tell the seller, Mr. Seller, if you want to do that, there is a high possibility that your property will take 9 months or 12 months to sell. So you explain to them why it is so. Is it so? Because when you take 3 months later to reduce the price, you have missed out all the buyers. All the serious buyers would have gone and bought somewhere else or bought something else. Then you reduce the price. Then you have to wait for a new batch of buyers to come into the market. And when the new batch of buyers to come into the market, they are expecting a lower price, even lower than your reduced price. And if you are slow in dropping further, then you are delaying your sale again. All right. So that's the reason why price reduction increases 2 or 3 times if you take a price reduction method to sell. All right. So we got a case study here from Kashfi, who is a very typical case of listings due in the shift market. It has all the all the sellers' behavior, market situation, and all that. And so therefore, let's invite Kashfi and talk about that case. All right, Kashfi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, good. Maybe you can introduce yourself.
Morning, everyone, and thank you very much, William, for inviting me to share my experience in these case studies. I'm from MC1, and I've been with Rickfield for about 10 years now. And originally, I'm from RPKL, Rickfield Properties KL, and my area of focus is in sub-sales, residential, and the areas that I focus in Ampang Jaya, Taman Ta, and UK Heights. So that is a little bit about me.
Okay, very good. So let's start with your case. Start with what kind of property and where is it located?
The property is a semi-D house. Location is in Ampang Jaya. Land size about 4,004, something like that. And the condition of the house was bad.
Oh.
So basically it was a complete tear down kind of a house. Maybe I can share with you the photo of the house. Is that possible?
Yeah.
Okay, let me see so that people can have a better image. What do I do?
That would be good.
Share screen, is it?
Yeah, share screen.
Share screen. Yeah. So, what do I do? Share. So, that's the house. This is the front of the house.
Enlarge it.
Oh, enlarge it.
Not open yet. Yeah.
How do I do that? Can you see it?
We are still seeing thumbnails.
Thumbnails? Strange. Hang on.
Is there another screen? Probably you click on the wrong screen. Okay, you stop share, come out first, and then go back again.
Stop share. Stop share. Stop share.
Now click share screen again.
Click share screen again.
You probably see a few screen there. Click the right one.
This one.
Oh, okay. Anyway, can you open that?
Yeah. Can you see it?
No, we can't.
Okay.
You need to open the photo first before you share screen.
Second, please. Okay. All right. Now
Open the
I
photo.
share screen.
And then click on the enlarge photo.
This one, I think. Can you see it?
Okay, got it.
Okay. So that's the house. And this is the front of the house. It's not the back of the house. It's the front of the house. As you can see, it's a very old house. It's been renovated here and there. Nobody lives in it for probably about a little bit more than 2 years. You've got weeds, the plumbing is gone, electrical wiring is gone, everything's gone.
When do you list this property?
We first got this listing in January of 2020. Yes.
That was before the lockdown.
Before the lockdown, correct.
Oh, okay.
Just a few months, yeah.
Yeah. So how much you listed it for?
We listed it for 1.1. That was what the owner wanted at that time. When we first got the listing, we did see the owner. The owner is actually living out of town, somewhere in Ipoh. So he came down. We presented the CMA to him, which included the bank valuation, transacted prices of the houses in that area, similar properties. Also the asking prices of what other houses were asking for. And on top of that, we even did a separate valuation of the building and the land. So what you mentioned just now, it's not a bungalow, it's a semi-D. So yeah, so what happened is that there was a piece of land, residential bungalow land, which sold, and we took the price of that land and we included the price of the building. But of course, the price of the building is not a lot because of the condition of it. So we presented all these four to the seller.
So what was the response?
The response of the seller was, of course, please try it at 1.1. This is a very typical, I think, very typical response. They wanted us to try 1.1, even though the numbers were not conducive to that way. But at the same time, we can also sense, we can also feel that the reality is quite painful for him to accept. I think sometimes our job to advise them, maybe they cannot take it in immediately. So we gave him time to discuss it with his family members and so on and so forth. But we did know what the correct pricing should be. It's just a matter of him being able to come to terms with it.
So what is the right price?
The right price at that time, before lockdown, should have been about between 890 to maybe 900, around 900.
Wow. And he wanted 1.1.
He wanted 1.1. He wanted 1.1. So this was something that we knew that we needed to give him a little bit of time, because we could sense his desperation in wanting to sell.
So how did you, at what price did you start in the market?
We listed it at 1.1 according to his instructions, just to show him that it's not acceptable to the buyers. We priced it at that.
And put that in the market.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So any response from the market then?
Of course not. The price is too high. The price
so how long he took to finally drop the price?
In February, about a month after that, they came down. They went this time because the house is actually belonging to the wife. So she came down and she talked to us, and we explained to her again. And of course, you know, they were adamant about the price that they want. But they did relent a little bit. They did say that, okay, maybe if it's a 1, we can accept it. But even though 1 is still above what it should be.
Sorry, the 1?
So 1 million. They wanted
okay.
1 million.
Okay. Yeah.
So they said if you can get it at 1 million, we are ready to let it go. Even though
So technically they have dropped from 1.1 to 1 million.
Yes. Sir.
Yeah. Right.
But even that is not enough for the market, you see.
But you continue at 1 million to market at 1 million.
Yeah.
And what happened after that?
They said we have dropped this much, and you should try your best, get this, because I believe, she said she said something that I cannot forget. She said, I can believe, I feel it. I feel that the universe is telling me it's 1 million. So she said, she told me, Kashfi, you have to. I believe, I can feel the universe is telling me 1 million. And so I said, of course, I said, yes, madam, I believe 1 million, madam. Do you feel it, Kashfi? I feel it, I said.
So you put it in the market at 1 million?
Yes, 1 million.
And how long later, you got any offers at 1 million?
No, of course not, because I could sense in her, what she was saying was that she had no other points rather than the universe is saying, 1 million. I mean, this is not a point,
Right. Yeah. Just a pause there. So for those listeners, these are the kind of sentiments and the emotions sellers are going through. And so sometimes you may just have to give them space to recover in that sense, recover or regroup or recompose themselves from the shock that they have after your presentation. So you may sometimes say, you may have to give them space and come back to them again later on, but they have to see the facts and see the reality of it. All right. Okay, continue, Kashfi.
Yeah, correct. So we could sense that there was, she couldn't hold out. Sometimes when we talk to people, they don't tell us their true intentions and they try and mask their weakness.
Yeah.
But maybe we are in a position to advise and negotiate and consult them, but we are never in a position, very seldom, to force them.
Yeah.
So this is something that we nod our head, but we know in our industry, the universe is called the market. So this is the reality, and the market is not saying 1 million. Yeah. So because of that, we just left it at that. We knew that time because the market has been on a downward trend before the COVID. It was on a sliding pattern, downward pattern. But suddenly March came, and of course it was lockdown.
Yeah.
And lepas tu panic lah. Panic lah. We cannot show the property, we cannot market. We could only do limited on our part. No viewings, no offers in March. So if I may continue, in June, if I'm not mistaken, after the first lockdown was eased, we were finally allowed to do some viewings with some restriction or something like that. We consulted with the seller again, and we took, and of course we don't have to tell them about the current situation with the pandemic and all that. Yeah. But at that time, they were on a sliding, and then the lockdown came, and the prices just went, just dove. So when we first opened it after the lockdown, we got offers as low as 700.
Did you forward the offers to them at the 700,000 offers?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Of course. And this was a shock to them.
That's where reality hits.
Reality hits. And at that time, I think it was the first lockdown, so everyone was still don't know what's going to go on. So at that time, the situation made them buckle and accept, But the lowest offer we got 700, 750. They accepted 800. We closed it at 820.
Wow. Very good.
In September, we closed it at 820.
So in that kind of situations with the lockdown and restrictions, you still manage to get very good offers. I mean, you still get a few offers.
Yes, because the price was right, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, the seller was beginning to be able to accept things as they are.
So you got the buyer's attention because you price it at right.
Yes.
So buyers turn up, see the property, make offer.
The serious buyers, the serious buyers, I mean, the 700 was a low ball. But of course, you can you can expect that at this kind of market, right? Every buyer would low ball.
Yeah.
We also knew it was a low ball. But then when a little bit higher offer came, and of course we closed it.
So in this case, of course, the situation in the market, the pandemic and all that, speed up the whole thing, the whole process.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So if you were to do this again, is there anything you want to change or do it differently?
In regards to this house, we could have gotten them to accept the first offer, our recommended price, but sometimes it's on our part. Maybe sometimes we are not able to convince them or negotiate with them, or we have a fear of losing the listing, that kind of thing. So we could have tried, but sometimes we fear that.
But if there's a similar case that comes in again, now you have a track record to show them. You say if you have this kind of pricing, your property will sit in the market for so long.
Correct. We can also show now that those kind of houses sold at this cheap, to the sellers.
So you have a story to back you up, the transactions to back you up, to tell them why they should not try higher, because that will make the selling process much longer, take longer for them to sell, and wasted a lot of time, right? So time is money. If they sell it off fast, they will quickly take the money and go and invest somewhere else. Yeah, so that's what a lot of sellers don't realize. That is to quickly sell, even at the kind of price that they are not happy with, because they need to sell. So instead of selling 6 months down the road or 8 months down the road, why don't they price it correctly now and sell it now, get the money and run, right? So I think listeners out there, you need to know, and this is what you need to help these sellers to understand, right? Of course, they say try higher lah, try this lah, try that lah. Okay, if you can show them that if you try higher, your property will sit there for another 6 months. Then you realize that you cannot find a buyer. Then you drop the price. Then you already lost 6 months of time. Time is money, right? So then, and worse still, you miss the opportunity to close. You miss out all the genuine buyers during that 6 months. And you have to wait for another batch of buyers to come in again, right? So I understand you have another case to show us, and this one, you picked this one because you did a different, you added something into the presentation, into the listings presentation.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So this, what property is that?
This one was a intermediate link house.
Okay.
Location is in Taman Datuk Ahmad Razali, which is near to Ampang Point. It's a small neighborhood. The house is extremely well renovated. Not only it looks nice, but the quality of the workmanship is superb, and the house is very well maintained by the owner. Yeah.
And what's the market situation there then?
The market situation is not a very active market.
Oh, okay.
It's not an active market because somehow the house prices are quite high there for a intermediate terrace.
For the benefit of those who just joined us, what do you mean by market is not very active there?
Because it seems that a lot of people, first, the pool of houses, I think probably they got about 60 houses only.
Oh.
And it seems that a lot of the houses, when people buy, they don't sell it.
So not much transactions lah.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. So what happened then when you see the seller?
When we saw the seller, this was in February 2020, right before lockdown. Anyway,
Wow.
yeah.
And what happened?
We advised the seller that the price, of course, is quite high, what they are asking. But their point was that, it's renovation and this and that, We told him, this time we understood a little bit better why he wanted to sell. It was because he was moving to another area, and they just purchased a house and they're going to renovate the house, and right after that they're going to move out of Taman Dato' Ahmad Razali. So we told them that there are not a lot of buyers for this area because the location is quite busy and all that. The supply pun tak banyak, transaction pun low. So besides doing the normal CMA, which is getting the bank valuation and the transacted prices and the asking prices, and we also, because it's a small neighborhood, we also gave, what do you call that, a CMA of surrounding areas like Tamanta, Ampang Jaya and all that, because this is the kind of, these are the kind of areas, or these are the kind of things the buyer would be looking into.
Yeah, good point.
Not just specifically that Taman Dato' Ahmad Razali.
Yeah.
We also advised the seller specifically. He told us he doesn't want to sell lower than what we recommend, but we told him, fine, we'll try it and we'll let you know what happens after we market your property in a certain amount of time. But we also conditioned him about the behavior of buyers. We told him that buyers who, when we advertise a property, it comes to the market, and the first few offers that you receive, you need to consider that very carefully. Not accept, but consider, because seriously consider this kind of offers, because these are the offers from the genuine buyers. We told them to imagine, for example, how many people do you think are looking at Taman Dato' Ahmad Razali now? 150, 7. So, and he said, oh, maybe about 20. I said, no, probably about 7. I said, and these people are the ones who go on iProperty every week, go for house viewings. They know what's the market. They know what the prices are. They know what Ampang Jaya is selling for, blah, 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 blah. So when they go inside iProperty tomorrow, when we advertise, when they see your house, they're going to call first. And these people are going to present offers. These are serious buyers, and Mr. Seller, you will need to consider these first few offers very, very carefully. So even though we couldn't get them to agree on the recommended price, but we conditioned them on the buyer's behavior. So that's what we did.
And so finally, what happened? How did you close the property?
Oh, not finally, but after that we had a lockdown, of course.
Oh, your hands are tied.
All hands are tied. They were also, they were also a little bit understanding of what the situation was.
Yeah.
But then after the first lockdown was eased, we tried to advise them, get in touch with them again, see where they are in their plan to sell this property and so forth. But this kind of seller, I'm sure a lot of us meet them, they not only want to control the price, but they also want to control the advertising and the marketing. They want to know what price you cannot market it like this. You cannot price it here. You cannot price it below 1 million. You must price it a certain price. But I said, if a buyer goes inside iProperty and yours is priced at 1.05, for example, if they put the, the search 800 to 1 million, they won't see your property. I said, why don't we just put it at 998? I said, no. I said. So I guess some people, maybe they need a little bit of control.
Yeah, they want to be your CEO.
Correct. They want to run our business.
Yeah.
But
so
it's
kind of challenging dealing with these kind of sellers.
Yes, it
And
was.
And how do you go about in your marketing then?
They asked us, show us your links where you market this property.
Wow.
And, of course, we satisfy that because
Yeah.
we are not sitting idle at home. We are also doing the work.
Mm.
So we get to satisfy that and gain a little bit of their confidence. Yeah. But then when we priced it, because as I mentioned, when we advertise it, of course, the buyers will take notice even though they don't respond. But once the price, we brought it down just about, I think, about 998, managed to convince them, then the buyer came.
So the price was dropped after you put it into the market a few times with a higher price. Then the owner himself agreed to drop the price.
Well, the owner didn't really agree, but of course, sometimes we have to take a little bit of control.
All right.
I mean, kalau dia nak, if they are not pleased, then they are not pleased. But in the end, it's their property. If they don't want to sell it, then they don't want to sign it, then they don't want to sign it. Okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, that brought the buyer in.
In that way, they are still in control.
Yes.
Got a buyer in.
Yeah, got a buyer in.
Yeah.
Got a buyer in, buyer lowball, as usual. Buyer lowball, 850.
Wow.
Seller came down, 950.
Okay.
Closed it in 3 days, 930.
So he went down from 950 to 930.
930. Buyer lowball 850, 900. The seller went down to 950. Met in the middle, 930.
There's a lot of negotiation in between.
Not so. I was hoping for more negotiation, but I think our preconditioning about accepting the first offer played a major part in this.
Yeah.
He knew he had to consider this, and when he thought maybe it's not the correct pricing, but then he remembered our CMA, which we gave them in the beginning. So that data helped.
Yeah, help them to come back to reality.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. Oh, very good. So finally, you closed that in how many months from the listings?
From the listing, actually, it's more than 6 months. Listed in February, closed in March. So that's about a year.
Wow.
Taking into account the lockdown and so on and so forth.
Okay. So I want to go back to your first case. I forgot to ask you. So finally, that case was closed at how much?
820.
But earlier you said before you came in, they got an offer at how much?
Oh, there was another agent listing it.
Okay.
They were getting offers at upper 900s.
Upper 900, but that was before the lockdown and all that, right?
Before lockdown, before they listed with us. I guess they wanted the high price. So what we did was that we noticed this house was for sale. So we wrote to the seller. We said, we noticed that your house has been on the market for quite some time and you're not able to sell it. So please contact us. We can help you sell it. So that's how we got the listing.
So I want to know from the first offer, which is 930 or 970.
The first offer we got was around 900 plus 930. We got 2 offers, 930, 920, that kind of higher.
But finally, the deal was later closed at
820.
820.
Yes.
So he lost about what? 80?
Let me see. 20%.
He lost
20%.
He lost 20% from the first offer.
No, from the listing price.
Oh, from the listings price. Yeah. So that's the kind of situation. If they would have dropped down to even much faster before the lockdown, they would have lost, but may not have to lose so much. And so,
Correct.
so for listeners there here, you need to note, if the seller decides to drop the price later on, right, they may have to lose more. So in this case here, he lost 20%. If from the day the listing is done, he dropped 10% from his expected price, so long as it's lower than the market rate, he could have sold it very fast, right? He could have sold it very fast, and he don't have to wait for another 8 months, 9 months to sell the property, and he don't have to sell. He don't have to sell at a loss of 20%. He probably sell at a loss of 10%.
If I may add, one of the things that we didn't do, for the first case was we didn't truly understand the motivation of the seller.
Oh, okay.
We knew that they were government employees with the Ministry of Health, outside of KL, so they had a stable income. But at the same time, we also knew, working with the Ministry of Health, they would take the pandemic very seriously. So I guess that helped our case. But we didn't really try and listen to understand and relate what exactly are the motivations for them to sell. So I think that was adding to the time that it took for us to convince them. Actually, the pandemic helped us. We didn't help ourselves.
So if you bring in your listings and you are able to tell them, if you put at this price above the market rate, you will sit there for another 6 months. Then if you will realize that you can't sell, and then you drop the price, then you have wasted 6 months already. So why don't you just drop the price now instead of wasting 6 months to drop the price? Correct?
Correct.
Yeah, there will be a good conversation to have with that kind of with the sellers, with all sellers who are like that. All right. So I think we have to pause for Q&A, and let's see what kind of questions we have. So hang on with me, Kashfi. Let's have a look at the questions. Okay.
See the screen, the questions that put there.
Oh yeah, I can see the questions here. Highly motivated seller, but house in very bad condition, dropped 30% below. Buyers view just in and out. No, need to almost rebuild. How do we handle this kind of listings? So like I said earlier, pricing can correct a bad condition of the house. So if with this kind of property, you just have to keep dropping the price. You just have to keep dropping the price until the buyers bite. All right. Next question. Any sample of the questionnaire you send to the seller to evaluate motivation level of the seller? So if you are with Refill Keller Williams, you can find these kind of questions, pre-qualifying questions in Ignite, lesson number 3. Yeah, the questions are there, pre-qualifying questions. Bank valuation you mentioned is just indicative value or valuation report. So Kashfi, that's a question for you.
Actually, one of the reasons why the seller wanted a high price was he showed us bank valuation, which was 1.3.
That's a bank valuation report, right? You're saying?
Yes, a report, a proper report. He showed us a 1.3.
Okay.
1.3. I guess it was about for when he was still living there and the house was in a good condition and all that. But sometimes in our, I can't believe how these banks, they give the valuation, and it was from KFH, Quick Finance House. I'm like, what? How do I counter this? I'm like,
But you have to look at the date of the valuation as well.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
I think sometimes also when we go to bankers and we say the house is asking for this, and then they just tell us, yes, can get. But we know it's too expensive. Sometimes it doesn't help our case. So we have to, for my case, I use the other methods. And at the same time, for this kind of house, it's such a bad condition. What I told the seller was that if the house would have to be rebuilt again, it would cost a certain amount of money, and the buyer would automatically lose to the market. Because the good condition house would be about 1.3 at that time. But if the buyer bought your house, completely tear it down, made a new building, it would be at 1.6. So the buyer is already losing out at market. So if you are a buyer, would you do this? So these are the kind of questions that we put to him.
Okay, we move on to the next question. Emily was asking, owner of BU11 house, LRT3 station coming up, price surely go up. What do you think? I think if you want to sell now, you have a price now. LRT3 will be coming up like 2 years later. So you cannot price the kind of pricing of 2 years later kind of market. All right, any more questions, Lynn?
One last one, yeah. We take the last one.
Yeah.
Jimmy Ng asks, what's the best pricing strategy for selling a house?
Do your CMA. That's the best pricing strategy. Do your CMA. Let the figures speak for itself. Let the figures speak to the sellers. So your CMA is the best source. That's why we don't only rely on bank valuation. We take from a few sources, right? We look at the transacted prices. We look at transacted prices are the past transactions. That's an indication, a very good indication of what the market is willing to accept for this kind of property, right? Especially when it is the latest transaction. That is a very good indication of what the market is willing to accept. Then you have your competitors' price, but sometimes competitors' price can, in certain locations, can be even higher than a transacted price. And so you got to be able to advise them accordingly, because sometimes those sellers are not in reality also, all right? And the other one, of course, is the bank valuation. If you can get someone that is more willing to be committed to assist you in this kind of valuation, that will be good, right? And also your own past transactions in the vicinity of the similar kind of properties, you can do that, because now buyers are looking at properties as a commodity. So if it is a link house of the same size, to them is the same one in Taman Chun, in Bandar Utama, or in anywhere in the surrounding area. To them is the same, right? So you can always get those transactions from other housing estates as part of your source of your CMA. All right. So we'll pause for some announcements, then we'll come back for your closing statement, Kashfi. So National.
Yuan? Hi. Thanks, William and Kashfi, for the great sharing today. We will have a few quick announcements before we pass the time back to them. So if you guys have been sharing our National Consumer Campaign touchpoints, do continue to share them weekly. And by doing that, you will also be entering the championship as well, where you have a chance to win USD $50 to be used in command campaigns. But be sure to also check out the terms and conditions for our championship as well. Next, please. So Agnes and Stephanie Chong are actually our week 4 winners. Congratulations. And we'll be announcing the next batch of winners next Monday. If you have yet to sign up for a KW Command workshop with Lucas, do sign up with the link shared in the chat box. Thank you.
All right, Kashfi. So what's your last advice to our listeners on your conversation with your sellers?
I think one of the things that our nature is, we are always self-absorbed. We are always thinking about pursuing our interests, and sometimes that can blind us from the motivation and understanding from our empathy of the other party. However, with deep sincerity in listening and understanding, we can better understand their moods, anticipate their moves, and gently lower their resistance.
Yeah, Yeah. So like I shared earlier, you have to be the fiduciary person, right? A fiduciary person to help the sellers to sell. And that's why with understanding of their situations. Of course, if it is as easy as just showing the CMA, talking about pricing, we can sell a lot of properties within 6 months, right? But the challenge is we are dealing with people, right? So now that's why sometimes we say we are in a people business. We are not in a property business because we are dealing with people. We have to deal with their sentiments, their expectations, their mindsets, right? So understanding them is good. Good point there, Kashfi. All right, so with that, we thank you for listening and we hope you will continue to tune into our series of Millionaire Mindset. And signing off, this is William Goh from MC1 Refuel. Bye-bye.